Studio International has come to Fabrica during Brighton Festival to talk to Ipek Duben about her multi-video installation piece, They, ONLAR.
The most frequent question I was asked at the middle school was where I came from. I was like, we didn't come from anywhere. We've been here all along. We're from Malatya. How can there be an Armenian from Malatya? There are no Armenians in this country. Which country did you come from? Did you come from Armenia? Did you come from Russia? Where did you come from? They used to ask me such questions.
Of course, as time passed, I learned that they had never been taught what an Armenian looks like, or about the history. They weren't even aware that there were Armenians living in Turkey. This shows that neither the Armenians nor the Turks actually knew each other. It's just happening now.
Who does they reference?
They references everybody who feels discriminated. You know, in Turkey, in this particular project, they are people like the Kurds and the Armenians and the Jews and women and people who were used to have problems with wearing the headscarf, but that's not an issue anymore. Different sects who are, you know, people who are Muslims, but not Sunni particularly, like the Alevis, and those kinds of people, really, and the LGBT people, of course.
Did your characters find it difficult to open up about these subjects, or did the context in which these interviews were done make people comfortable to express?
Well, nobody volunteers to on a topic like this, you know, to talk about their stories, their life, really, in front of the camera particularly. And it's a trust issue. They are not comfortable talking about how they were discriminated against, you know, or tragedies that happened in their histories. So I had to find people through friends and contacts, and they were explained who I was, and they were informed about my website, and they could get to know me. Then I met with them on a one-to-one basis, and we chatted, and I told them that they could ask me any questions, and that I knew that they had to trust me, and that I didn't want them to tell me stories that sounded politically correct. And during the interview, I had to sometimes go back to the same question until I felt like they were open enough to really tell me how they felt about that kind of information. And in the end, it's a very, you know, talk from the heart, really, very sincere and very, very true.
What's your message regarding how they should react to or interact with the other?
Well, I guess it's interacting for everybody, isn't it? We have to interact with each other, and we are, in a way, somebody's other to begin with, so we're all others. How shall we interact? Well, I'm suggesting with this project that we stop to listen, to really listen to each other and try to empathize with them and learn and understand that they are human beings above all. And that's one way of doing it. Maybe that's the only way of doing it. You know, certainly we do not reach resolutions and happiness through politics, political agreements and such, you know. We've got to have one-to-one human relationships.
What was the initial reaction to They, ONLAR in Turkey?
Oh, people were very interested, but because this is talking about the Turkish way of othering people, people who come from more advantaged positions, they didn't feel good. They felt that they did not know their history. They didn't know the reality of so many people's stories and how sad it is. And some felt embarrassed, and others were very happy to learn about it and to meet these people, like I was. I felt very much like that.
Do you feel the reaction to what you just described would be the same here?
I can't say that. I don't really know. All I can say is that this is a universal condition. And how people will respond to these particular stories, they may not be so interested in particular stories, but they may experience the process of listening. This is an interactive project. It doesn't mean a thing unless people really sit and listen and hear the whispers, which is continuous. And look at these people who appear and disappear in a continuous, constant way, which sort of indicates that we're in a universe, a void really, where we all exist all the time, forever, talking and missing and maybe hearing. So it's up to us to decide that we want to hear each other.
There's a sign downstairs that says no filming. Could you explain why?
Well, these are very private stories. They are told to me with the understanding that they would not be misused, which means commercially. This is not for sale, it's not an advertisement, and it is not a declaration of complaints. Because I'm trying to register the human condition, and the television and public appearances are really more than that normally. They are advertisements of certain things, and this is not about that. And I have agreed to not misuse it, and so I have to stand by my, promises. These are very private stories. They don't normally tell these people what their lives are like, and maybe they don't feel safe, or maybe certainly, for example, the woman who has been battered by her husband, who has been followed by him, she doesn't want to appear on any screen. Or the Armenian stories, or an Armenian organization may use the stories, and they do, but these particular people, they don't particularly want to be known as, telling their very private, about their grandmothers and grandfathers and their own tragedies and so on. And there are others like the gays and lesbians who are talking to me for this project, and really they wouldn't feel safe under certain conditions. That's why we have to be careful.
When you walk into the show, you get a sense that you're in the midst of many conversations going on at the same time. What kind of effect were you trying to achieve with that?
Many conversations are going at the same time, but not in an imposing way. Nobody is shouting at anybody, like in a regular public space. Somebody is giving a talk, a propaganda speech, or this and that. A routine public space is not this. This is a new concept as a public space where we volunteer to hear each other, and what we hear is not shouting at us. So, and the whispering is also constant. It means, metaphorically, it's like, it is forever in the world, in the universe, if we are ready to hear them. For example, what about in the Philippines, or in Korea, in India, in Egypt, in Africa? People are constantly expressing themselves, their tragedies, their joys, and so on, their human condition. And that's the metaphor with the voice. And the light, too, is different from a routine use of projectors in a public space, where the subject of the attention is brought out by extreme light, and then they disappear in our minds, and as soon as they appear, they disappear in a way, in our memory, most of the time. And in this case, the characters create their own light. Even though we use projectors, They are not thrown at their faces. The light comes from within. They're like stars in a dark universe. And also they die, and then new people come in. So it's, again, that continuous condition of existence.
The scale of the projections suggests there's a humanity to the size of the characters. Was that an intentional effect, a desired effect?
Very much intentional. I mean, if they're in fact larger than life, so in relation to the viewer, they are a little dominating. And that creates the psychological effect I wanted to create, so we can focus on them.
Is there anywhere else in the world you feel They ONLAR should be shown at this moment in time?
Well, in Germany, I would very much like it in Germany, and United States, where I have spent many, many years. Anywhere. I'm not thinking of the Far East right now, but certainly Europe, because the issue is very hot, here. To learn to look at different people, different religions, people who belong to those identities as human beings.